whole purpose of this State of the Platform address is to, exactly as the name suggests, give you an update on all the things that are going on here on the Funneler platform. As you know, you are beta users. This is a beta platform. We are working through this and making this the best dang software on the platform, and you are helping us to do that. And you are going to be rewarded richly by being heard, being listened to, having your ideas implemented, having your feature requests actually put into the system. When you jump onto a gigantic funnel building platform, there's little opportunity for you to be heard, if any at all. You just have to jump on the platform and run with the punches. Whereas here, as Ryan has mentioned on previous calls, you get his personal ear and he is listening to everything that you need, want, and require. And so a lot has happened in the last 30 days. And so we're going to be updating you on some of the things that have happened. We're going to be making some announcements. We're going to be sharing with you improvements that have been made to the platform. And I mentioned to Ryan that it would be good for us to go into even perhaps some of the smaller updates that might in some cases feel insignificant, but they are things that maybe have improved the system, but you didn't notice because you weren't particularly looking for that particular feature, right? So that's the game plan for these State of the Platform addresses, and we're going to be doing them once a month. We are going to block this out for 90 minutes. That will be the maximum amount of time we go for. But we might finish sooner. We might go for an hour, but we might also fill the entire 90 minutes if needed. And once we've gone through our updates, once Ryan has shared everything that he's here to share, then we'll open it up to Q&A. Any and all questions, are valid, and you have time with me and Ryan, the founders here. So feel free to make use of that. Does that sound good? For those of you with a webcam, give me a thumbs up if that sounds good. Awesome. So without further ado, Ryan, over to you to hear all that has happened in the last 30 days.
All right. Well, I'm going to try keep my list of updates as short as possible. I'm going to take you through a couple of the key and the most exciting features and changes and updates that we've made over the last little while. I'm going to try to do that as succinctly as I can, though, because I'd like as much time as possible for Q&A, just because, on these calls, it would be really great to engage with you. It's not a video, it's not a monologue. I want to actually engage with you guys and answer your questions, etc. So I'm going to try and whiz through this really quickly, and we can always come back and, if you have any questions or anything related to any particular features. But really, the last month has been pretty exciting. It's been great to see such diverse use cases. And that's really the difference between the first version of a system and the system that comes out at the end of the beta phase, because the first version is built based on what the development team and the user experience team think people are going to do. And the system that ultimately comes out, what we call the gold release, the version that happens at the end of the beta phase, is based on what users actually do. And so every single person has seemingly completely different requirements, a completely different way of implementing their business. Some people are really heavy on the small features within the e-learning system, for example. They're creating very intricate programs and courses. Other people have really intricate sales funnels. Some people are doing big ticket sales where they're selling individual products for huge amounts of money. Other people are doing high volumes of tiny sales. In fact, one of our clients, just in terms of the system getting to stretch its legs, one of our clients is doing such insane volumes that when I showed John, he said, maybe don't mention this on the call because people are going to think that you're making it up. I mean, one of our clients, I'm just going to do it, John. Believe me or not, one of our clients is generating multiple orders per second for hours sustained. So basically, they're in the hundreds of thousands of orders at this point. It's based on smaller transactions. So they're not doing, obviously, $10,000 sales. It's smaller transactions, but it's just unbelievable to see some people hitting this thing at like pretty major scale, and other people, of course, doing far fewer transactions, but much bigger. And so based on all of this input coming from every different direction, we are refining and polishing the system at this point in some really exciting ways. So I'm just going to go through. Last time we had this call, I started by sort of going from my least favorite to my favorite. This time I'm kind of going to reverse it. I'm going to start right out the gate with my favorite update. from this version. And I'm also going to mix in a couple of things that are not really visual or demonstratable, because on the community, I kind of mentioned a few things that we're going to be doing to get from the beta version to the gold version. And some of that was a little bit more technical. So I'm not going to get too in the weeds there, but I would like to cover a little bit of that stuff just so that you know where we're going based on what's happened. So I'm going to start off by jumping in with my favorite feature. And this is a feature that John and his team requested. I haven't actually showed John the feature yet, to be honest. So he's going to be seeing it now for the first time with all of you. But John, I'm actually just going to hand over to you first. Could you please explain your engagement process and how you use that in your business? And then I'll kind of unpack how we've implemented that in the system.
Yes, absolutely. So I would like to ask those of you on the line, if you have an email list over, let's say, 1,000 people, just say yes in the chat box real quick for me. It doesn't have to be on the Funneler platform, any platform on the internet. Do you have an email list over 1,000 people? Give me a yes. Okay, Uzair, Alison, Joanne, Farzana, Ethan. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Okay, and of those 7, how many of you have an email list of over 5,000 people? Just type another yes in the chat. Over 5,000 people. 1, 2, 3. Okay, fantastic. Yep, Howard, yeah, awesome. Okay, awesome. Okay, so a few of you, a handful of you have, let's call it a decent size email list. So for those of you at that level, you absolutely need to be doing what I'm about to share. This is not a funnel related training point. This is email specific, and it's very, very important you do what I'm about to mention. And for those of you who do not have an email list yet, you need to get something like this set up in preparation so that your email efforts are the best they can possibly be from the outset. So what I've done is I just realized as Ryan was speaking that perhaps having a visual aid would be helpful. And so in the last 20 seconds, I endeavored to create a slide to illustrate my point. And this is as far as I got. So here we go. Here's my fancy pants slide to illustrate what I'm about to share. So isn't it? It's beautiful, right? It's absolutely beautiful. When leads join your email list, okay? When leads join your email list, they're coming in the front end of your business and they're going to hit what we call engaged. Now, this would represent a lead on your list who is fresh on your list. So we don't know if they're going to continue to engage. We don't know if they're going to continue to be active. And by active, I mean open your emails, click in your emails, things like that. So when they first join your list, we want to apply a tag to those people that say that they are engaged, right? So that when we're emailing people and we're doing bulk emails from our system, we can select people that are currently engaged. And we know that we're going to get a good open rate and a good click-through rate. And that's going to help our deliverability, right? And with good deliverability helps the entire system. Now, what we do is if somebody does not engage with our business, they don't open our emails, they don't click on anything, we have a lead, we have a contact in the system, and they're doing nothing, right? If that happens in 30 days, then we remove the tag that says engaged, and we apply a new tag that says that this person is now disengaged, right? So 30 days elapses, they don't do anything, right? Well, we're now saying you're not engaged anymore, you are now disengaged. Now, we do the same thing if a further 30 days goes by and they have still not engaged with anything, then we actually remove the disengaged tag and we move to the inactive tag. And that would be applying this to someone who, in effect, has gone 60 days and they are not opening any emails from you and not clicking on anything. Now, if we don't do this, we're going to continue to be emailing people that we would call a dead lead, right? And by doing that, you're not getting accurate numbers of how your email marketing is performing, but you're also going to be damaging your email deliverability moving forward because you're emailing people that are, of course, not engaging. Now, what we would do is if somebody joins our list and they go 30 days and they don't open an email, then they're going to be applied the disengage tag. But let's assume that in 10 days with this tag, they do open an email and they do click something, then we instantly, automatically remove the disengage tag and reapply the engage tag. So we've essentially said, okay, well, they've re-engaged now, so let's remove them from there and let's put them back in the beginning. So they come right back here to the beginning and the process starts again for 30 days. And if they don't engage again, of course, they go into inactive. So this thing just needs to be perpetually working and functioning for your business behind the scenes, so that when you are doing an email promotion, you know the primary people on your list have the engage tag. So you select the engage tag, email goes out to them. You could do custom stuff for different tags. So if people are in disengaged, well, we can say, well, okay, if they've been disengaged for 30 days, I don't want the very first time that they open an email from me in let's say 45 days to be a promotional email. I want them to be hit with content. So maybe you only email content to your disengaged people in an effort to re-engage them. And as soon as they do re-engage, they go, oh, this person actually does have some great content. This is amazing. And now they go back into engage tag and they might get some of your promotional stuff. And then when people are inactive, you might decide, I'm never emailing them. I don't want to touch those leads. Or maybe you'll do a very important email every now and again in an attempt to get them re-engaged, but we wouldn't touch them too often. Okay. So firstly, by show of thumbs, are you tracking with me? Does that make sense so far? Yeah. Okay. A lot of you won't have this type of thing set up. And this was something that I do. And it's very important. And we've been teaching this to our highest level clients for a very, very long time. So anyway, all of that to say, I came to Ryan and I said, look, dude, this is one of my feature requests. I need this. This is incredibly important. And my clients need it as well. So with that bit of context, back over to you, Ryan.
Okay, so basically, let me just share my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen at this point? You should see
Yep.
the funnel system. All right, so I spoke with John and I spoke with his team about this feature and how it's used. And the first thing that hit me is that this is not a John specific feature. This is a feature that everybody should be using. Everyone should be implementing this in their business. The second thing that struck me was how difficult it was to set up, because what John and his team are doing, and this is just how it works in other systems, is creating tags and automations, and the automation will grant or revoke tags depending on different filters that you apply and so on. And everybody should be doing it. But when I looked at how John and his team was doing it, I just thought, man, this kind of sucks, to be honest. Not what John was doing, but how it worked. And so John said, hey, is this possible? And I was like, well, yes, I mean, you could go to the users area and you could create automations and you could assign and revoke, tags based on, but as I was going through this, I was thinking, John's going to remain the only person doing this because it's so, there's so many steps and it just kind of sucks. And then the third thing, and this is really what pushed me over the edge and made me prioritize this feature, is that nobody else has made it any easier. So if you look at pretty much anyone else in the space, they haven't made it any easier. Everyone's doing it through automations, etc. So this is what we've done. We've made this functionality an intrinsic part of the system, as opposed to something that you set up with automations and so on. So I'm going to start by going over to the users. And again, John hasn't actually seen this. And on the right-hand side of every user, we have an engagement rating. And you can see over here that this is a scale from 1 to 10, and it explains what the situation is over here. Contacts start with an engagement rating of 10, and then that engagement rating goes down by 1 unit every 10 days. And when they re-engage, it moves them back up to a level of 10. So if they click on a link, or they open an email, or they log in, or they place an order, or anything that shows that they're engaged, it moves them back up to 10. So the people who are buying your products and are engaging your content, etc., will have a high rating. And as time goes by, it's slowly going to move down. So John spoke about the first 30 days. So the first 30 days, those are the people who are 8, 9, and 10. So if you have 8, 9, and 10, then you're going to be a blue contact. You're in that engaged space. If you go below that, you go into the orange space. So if you're like 5, 6, etc., you're going to go over there. And then people who are completely disengaged are going to start falling into the red space. So we track this automatically. There's no automations or anything like that. And then what we do is in the messenger, I'm going to go and just create a single message. The same applies to everything else though. So I'm just going to create a new message, and I'm going to go right over to recipients. And you'll see here inside of recipients, we now have this new feature just baked in. No additional functionality. You don't have to add filters, or no additional configuration, should I say. No filters. You don't have to say target people with this tag or anything like that. You just have this new control over here called engagement. And you can now decide how engaged you want, or what the minimum and maximum engagement is. So let's say you want to send out to people who are not very engaged. Well, you can go over here, and this is going to be, let's say, 1 to 5, and it's going to explain what to do with this. So it says sending messages to disengaged contacts may negatively impact your sender reputation. This audience is only suitable for content-rich messages. So that's what John was saying a moment ago. You don't want the first thing that people see from you after not hearing from you for a while, not opening your content. You don't want that to be a sales message. So these people who are disengaged, in this case, it's sort of 50 days plus, and you can keep it going. You're going to be able to target them, let's say, with content-rich messages. Then you might want to target people who are kind of in the middle of the spectrum. So these are people who are semi-engaged, and it says over here that this audience is suitable for a mix of content and offers. Or you may want to just target your most engaged people. These are the people that John was talking about, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these are people within the last 40 days that have been engaged. You can do it last 30 days. And this is going to explain that sending these messages is going to, this audience is ready for offers and for content, and sending messages to this audience is going to improve your sender score. So that's the first feature. For me, this is pretty much the most exciting of the features that we've added in this version. Does that all make sense?
That, Ryan, that's beautiful. That is beautiful, and it's super cool. I love what you've done with that, actually. And I'm already, like, the cogs in my brain are turning. I'm already thinking about different promotions that we do. And depending on how important it is, depending on how large of an audience we want to reach, we can be dipping into the lower numbers, and we can be pulling it back to make sure that we're not over extending on mailing those. This is fantastic. This is super cool.
Awesome. So, and one of the cool things here is it's because we've broken it down into these 10 segments. It's not as static as engaged. I don't know what the intermediate group is called, and then inactive. You can target people who are in a more specific range as needed. And what I'm really excited about here is that this is now going to become an automatic practice, which enhances our community as a whole, because you don't have to now get training necessarily on how to set this up. And also, you don't even have to have training on what the benefits are. Here it explains to you, okay, send content-based messages to people in this audience because you're targeting the lower end. So this is going to encourage the community. It's going to build into the fabric of the system an ethos around sending content-based communication rather than just hitting people with offers. Segmenting your audience is now going to become part of the system, which is going to improve the the overall quality, the engagement, etc., of our community as a whole, which is just going to benefit everyone. So that's feature number 1, and I'm really excited about that. And again, that's the first time John's seen that, and I've been looking forward to showing him what we've been doing on that front. So that's feature number 1. Any questions on that, or should I just plow right ahead onto number 2? John?
No questions from me. Do you want to take questions from the audience or leave them to the end? I think perhaps leave them to the end.
Leave them to the end, yeah.
If any of you have a question on anything that Ryan shares as we go through this, make a note of it, and then we'll circle back to it at the end. All right.
Cool. Okay, so the next one is a like a non-visual one. So I'm going to cut these in so that there's something to look at every now and then. So we've been, the next key thing over the course of this past month, we obviously had some people sending out some spam messages on imported lists, and there's a whole exciting adventure around that. So we've been putting a tremendous amount of work into our email infrastructure, into protections and so on. And we've managed to close down all of those you know, let's call it all of those openings. And in addition to that, we've kind of just ramped up our email infrastructure quite massively. At this point, we have the capacity to send about 100 million emails per day. And again, with just a ton of protections and so on. So we're going to be, you know, going forward, that sort of thing should, you know, not easily happen again. So there's a few things that we can discuss in terms of the policy and so on how people are going to be assigned sender reputation. But I think I'm going to put that into a video maybe and stick that on the community. But for now, just know that the issues with people sending out spam messages on our system, those loopholes have all been locked down, and we've done a ton of work around that. So that's just a sort of behind the scenes thing I wanted to fill you in on. And I'm going to move on to something else that you can actually see. So in addition to that, we have added a whole bunch of new integrations related to email. So a lot of you guys have integrated SendGrid, but we've added a few more. I know that some of you were actually denied accounts with SendGrid. And so we've added Mailgun, Mailjet, Amazon, and a couple of others. So we've got about 5 new integrations, and some of them are really awesome. Like Mailgun, I think might be my favorite. And I mean, you can just go through to, I'll put training videos out on all of this, but you can just go through to the Mailgun website, and Mailgun is very similar to SendGrid, but they are, you know, the different integrations for different purposes. For example, if your main focus is on just saving money and making this as cheap as possible, you can use the Amazon simple email service. And that I think is $1 per 10,000 emails or something ridiculous. So you've got extremely low cost options. You've got, you know, very widely used, very popular options like SendGrid. Mailgun, in my experience, based on the tests that I've done, has given me the best deliverability. But anyway, the point is that I know a lot of you guys were denied accounts with SendGrid. And so we've just gone out and integrated, you know, another 4 or 5 of those. Okay, so that is some new integrations. The next thing is another really exciting feature, in my opinion. I'm going to jump on over to products. So we had quite a few requests for different functionality related to the availability of products or payment gateways or things like that. So I'll give you an example. Some people have products that they only want people to be able to buy once. So they buy a product, and once they bought that product, they shouldn't have the option or ability to buy it again. So they wanted to create permissions on a product that would say people who have a certain tag, for example, can't purchase this product. So I'm just going to go down here to set up. I'll show you this on payment methods, but the same thing applies all over the place. So okay, so here we have a payment method, and you'll see over here that we have an availability area. And many of you guys actually got really confused with how the old availability functionality worked. Could you actually just let John know? I can't see the chat, but could you let John know if you've tried any of the availability functionality in the past? Because we got a ton of tickets. Don't know if you guys were, if any of the people logging tickets were actually on this call right now, but we got a ton of tickets just saying that this availability control is super confusing. John, anyone on the call fall into that category?
Not yet. So give me a yes in the chat box if that's you. If you've played with this availability here, is that you? Going once?
No.
Going twice? No, nobody on this call, right?
Okay, same as last time when I said we're getting tons of requests and no one was on the call that gave any of those requests. But basically the old availability control, it was basically so confusing that even when people were logging tickets and I said, okay, I'll just make a video explaining how this works, halfway through the video, I'm like, I'm not sure actually if I got that right. So it is a very confusing control before, which we didn't realize until people started using it. And again, that's the refining influence of a beta community. So loads of people are getting stuck on that. No one on this call, but loads of people, trust me, believe me, telling the truth. And in addition to that, there were a lot of people who wanted to be able to create negative permissions. In other words, not saying this product or this payment gateway or this whatever is available to these people, saying instead that it's not available to certain people. So instead of what we had before, we now have this whole thing that I'm showing you is brand new. So you can click on availability. It says that this payment method, in this case, is available to all users. And now I can add conditions. So now it says that the payment method is only available to users who meet the following conditions. And then we could have tags or access cards or whatever. And we can say this payment method is only available to people who have the registered access level, for example, or whatever else. So we can create that. We can also say negative permission. So we could say people who don't have, so this is only available to people who don't have a certain access level. So the way that this might work in a real world scenario, and this is the primary scenario that people have been requesting, is when somebody buys a product, you can automatically give them a tag saying, I've bought this product. And then you could say this product is not available to people who have that tag, as an example. So you can create, and same thing with payment methods. A lot of people were saying that when someone checks out on their website, they want to have a, Stripe, for example, as the only payment method. But if someone's buying their high ticket products, something that's $10,000, you want to allow them to do a wire transfer, but you don't want people paying for a $7 product with a wire transfer. So you can now create permissions around the payment method, for example, saying that the wire transfer payment method or the cash payment method is only available to people who have the big spender tag, for example, whereas the Stripe payment method is available to everyone. So there's a ton of cool stuff that you can do with this availability, and it applies to products, access cards, pages. You can use this. Another common example relates to membership areas. So inside of your membership sites, you may want to create specific pages that are available only to people who have purchased certain products, who have certain levels of access. So if I go to the pages, I can also go to availability. And so I could have my membership site, my normal membership site, but then I could say that when somebody buys a certain product, give them a certain access level. And then I could say that certain pages are available to people with a certain access level or are not available to people with certain access levels. So this is for if you have special bonuses and so on that people have to purchase to get access to. All of that can now be automated with this new access control. So John, any questions on that, or does that all make sense?
That all makes sense, and no questions from me on that.
Okay, cool. So the next one I want to go over, John asked me to include a couple of the smaller features, and really a huge thing that, I've already mentioned this multiple times, so please forgive me for repeating myself, but what we're finding is that the difference between the beta version and the gold version isn't really stability. It's not bugs, because very few of the things you guys are logging are bugs. It's more user experience. It's more people getting caught in places that we didn't expect people were going to get caught in, and reporting those. So I'm going to show you, I think it's the number one point of confusion we've had for the past few months. People saying, I can't log in. That's been overwhelming number of tickets saying I can't log in. And that all comes back to one basic thing, one reason that people are struggling to log in. When you log in as a staff member, you go to your domain /admin. That's how you log in as a staff member. Your customers will go to your domain /login. So if you went to /login and you tried to log in as a staff member, it wouldn't let you log in. And then you would log a ticket with us saying, we can't log in. And there was just endless confusion. So what I want to show you here is a very, very small feature, but it's more of an example of the type of thing that we've been doing, because we've implemented like dozens and dozens of these sorts of small things that hopefully will make life a lot easier. So here I'm logging in as a staff member. If I go back here and I go to users and then I go to staff, you'll see that our friend Gil Bates over here, this is our staff user. So when I log in as the staff user, it's going to say that you can't log in here as a staff user. So click here to access the staff login. Now, I don't know if I can do this in a dev environment, so I'm going to click it. It may, oh, it does work. Great. So that takes me to the staff login, and now I can log in without any issue. So things like that, where we're just having masses of people getting stuck on something small that we can just think through a little bit and smooth that out. And that's an example of a smaller change that I think is going to make a pretty big difference. John, anything on that, or should I just jump onto the next?
Oh, I really like that. I really like it. I think it's really, really clean and really smooth. And I guess I just would like to point out at this point in time that things like that are being fixed, or solutions are being, put in place to make your experience on the platform smoother and easier. There's dozens and dozens of these. Ryan hasn't got time to go through them all. And when we were talking about this call before we jumped on, a lot of them, Ryan feels perhaps are just insignificant. They're just things that he and his team are just implementing and putting into place. But I think they're more significant. So I just want you to know that there are lots of examples just like that, where all over the system, Ryan and his team are just making things smoother, making things easier. So every now and again, you might just find a button that wasn't there before that makes jumping to a different section of the system easier, or, just things like that. So just keep that in mind. Be on the lookout for these little Easter eggs that will keep popping into your account.
Right. I mean, we've categorized, whenever somebody logs something, we categorize those into features or bugs or epics, or, there's a number of different categories that we move these things into. And so we can check the flow of the fulfillment of those items. So somebody will log a bug, it'll get logged on our system as a bug, and then we can see the status change and we can see the type change, etc. And the overwhelming majority of bugs logged in the system, if you look at the flow, turn out to not be bugs. And this is a prime example. Even John and his team were sending messages saying, I can't log in. And so we would have a bug logged where it says I can't log in, and it's actually working exactly the way that it's supposed to. But of course, it looks like a bug, it sounds like a bug, it feels like a bug, it's annoying like a bug, but it's actually working. And so these things, as John said, are super important. It's not just about smoothing things out, but I suppose because we're in a beta phase, when something doesn't work the way that you expect, the natural conclusion is it's a bug. But so far, most of those bugs have actually been not things that the developers needed to go back and fix, but things that we needed to pass to the user experience team to say, people are getting stuck here, let's fix those. And as we improve the user experience, we're seeing that the bug reports are going way, way down just because we're smoothing it out. So every one of those things represents an annoying situation avoided for you. So yeah, that's as John said, those are actually probably the most important things. The compound effect of that across the entire system hundreds of times, I think, is going to make a massive difference and be the key differentiator between beta and gold. Okay, so the next one is actually another one of those behind the scenes things. So I spoke to you guys on the community a little bit about monitoring. And again, nothing that you can see, but this is really important. Basically, one of the things I promised was that over the course of the last couple of weeks, we would improve our monitoring significantly. And again, big difference between beta and gold is not bug fixing. It's more just, it's user experience. And in this case, it's about having, I guess, more, it's the infrastructure, we can say. So what we've done over the last while, there's been a massive investment into improving the monitoring. So if anything happens on the system that shouldn't be happening, we have preemptive monitoring. So that means something will go wrong, and before anyone even knows that something has gone wrong, the system will SMS me in the middle of the night, say, wake up, go to the office, there's something that may possibly be going wrong in the next couple of hours. So we've spent a huge amount of time looking at every single potential point of failure, building in monitors. And the monitors do a couple of things. First of all, it will alert us early to anything that potentially could go wrong. Secondly, it highlights areas that, again, we can polish or improve, and just areas where there's potential friction. So that's allowing us to refine our system. And then the third thing is that it's giving us very clear data related to uptime. So I can say with 100% certainty that over the last, well, I'm not quite sure when we finished implementing the monitors, but over the last roughly month, there's been 0 downtime. And so this is a key thing that we need to do, because our goal is to be able to offer uptime guarantees. And I think very few people in our industry are actually able to offer uptime guarantees. That's just not part of the offering, but we want to be able to say we guarantee 99.99% uptime. And for us to do that, we need to have that extreme level of monitoring in place. So that's going to ensure better uptime, and it's also going to allow us to report on that. And once we exit beta, it's going to allow us to actually give you guys uptime guarantees. And from, this is all back-end stuff, not very interesting. What is the takeaway for your business? The takeaway is that our goal is to give you perfect uptime, unrivaled uptime compared to everyone else in the industry. And we've taken some major steps towards that over the last couple of weeks. So that's another behind the scenes thing. John, anything on that, or should I just cruise right on forward?
Keep moving. All perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to show you one more thing, I think, because we're already at Q2. So I'm just going to show you one more thing, and then I think we can leave it there. So I'm going to go through to the subscriptions area, and a lot of what we've been doing this month is again, it's just ironing out wrinkles and challenges that people have been hitting, as opposed to major features. And so in general, I think that, and this is what I told you on the last state of the platform address, I told you that instead of doing a small number of really big things, we're going to be doing hundreds of small things. And so in keeping with that, this actually was pretty massive, but from your perspective, it's probably one of the small things. So we've had a lot of queries, and another point where there's just been a lot of queries relates to billing. What am I going to pay? When am I going to pay it, etc.? How do I change from annual to monthly billing? All of that sort of stuff. And so here, if you go to the subscription area, you'll be able to do a number of different things, but among those is change between monthly and annual billing, update your billing details, decide which version of the platform that you want to use, all of that sort of stuff that I guess you'd expect on a gold version. A lot of that stuff wasn't there. And so folks were logging in over here, going to their subscription, saying, oh no, I'm going to pay $3.95 even though you're on an annual package. So, all of that stuff is going to be smoothed out. And that's just another point of high tickets that hopefully will be gone. And it's just going to make managing your account and understanding your bill and auditing your bills, etc., a hang of a lot easier. You can also click into that, and it's going to show you a breakdown of your bill, how many contacts, etc., you have in your system, why you were upgraded or downgraded. It's just going to give you some real clarity over that whole side of things, and hopefully that will put an end to any confusion that we had related to this part of the system. So that's pretty much that. Those are the main things that I wanted to discuss with you. I think we can, John, if you have any questions, we can do that. Otherwise, I think we can open it up for Q&A.
Yeah, perfect. So just one more thing on that last point there. Just before anyone panics further, seeing that on the screen, keep in mind you're all on a yearly plan, right? So, if you took us up on our launch offer and we reopened, when was it? I think a month or two ago, and did another yearly plan launch special. So this isn't something you've got to worry about for a long time. We're not going to be billing you, but this will just be what you'll roll on to once your year comes to an end, and you'll have options. The options will be to maintain another year, grandfathered into the price that you got, or roll on to a monthly plan if you'd rather have some flexibility, move up to a higher plan if you want to, spend more. So, or want more usage. So, there'll be options there for you. All right.
Right. Just want to add one thing quickly to that. I think the main point of confusion has been that you guys are actually not supposed to be paying monthly, but it was saying that there's a monthly amount due in a year. So now that's just going to be cleared up so that when you look, you're not going to have that little moment of panic. It will very clearly show you that you've signed up for a year plan. There's not going to be any more bills for the year. So that's the thing that people have been panicking about a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. So got some questions in here already, which we're gonna dive through. Some of them I can handle, some of them I'm going to pass over to Ryan.
Okay.
If you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll get to as many as I can with the time that we've got. So Cecilia says, yay to being grandfathered in. Yes, absolutely. Howard says, so we're grandfathered in for the 995 price for life. Yes, this was something that I mentioned on the webinar, and me and Ryan had to have quite a heart-to-heart on this, because the reality is, long term, we lose money on you guys, unfortunately. You know, we truly are. You know, the usage, the development costs, all that we're doing, we lose money on that. But you know, I said to Ryan, you know, what we need to do is make sure that we give just the most insane deal to our beta users as a thank you for being the early adopters. And that's part of our thanks to you, right? That we're gonna allow you to stay on the plan that you secured during our launch. You will be able to remain on that plan for as long as you want to stay around with us. And yeah, again, that's just our thanks to you. And the grand scheme of things is, look, you know, we've got 300 users at the moment. By the time we're 30,000 users, you know, you guys will be a drop in the ocean in terms of the billing, so we can stomach it at that point. So we're playing a long game. So yes, that's the long way of saying absolutely, we want to take good care of you. All right. And then Mark says, will you have an affiliate program for beta users in time for the gold release? Yes, we're working on that. And of course, as you know, if you were on the previous State of the Platform address, we told you that we're not looking for new users at the moment. We are putting production above profit. We want to make sure this is the best system of its kind. And if we just continue to, you know, get more users on the platform, then that takes away from development time of us making sure the system is awesome. So we've actually made the decision for the whole of last month to not enroll anyone new, and we are still not enrolling anyone new until me and Ryan decide that we're ready to, and that the system's ready to. So at the moment, it's just you guys in the family, and the doors are currently shut. But by the time we open back up and we do decide to, then of course we will be putting some thought and some effort into the affiliate program for you guys to promote. We've had a lot of interest in doing that, and we'll have a special offer for people that you bring in specifically. And we're also going to have some amazing affiliate prizes and all kinds of crazy stuff that we're planning. So that is on the horizon. Anything to add to that, Ryan, or shall I move to the next one?
No, I think the main thing is just, you know, our goal is not just to do what everyone else does, but better. Our goal is to really think about everything that we do from a different angle. And I hope that you guys are excited with the affiliate program that we bring out, because it's going to be something pretty epic, I think.
Absolutely. And you know, really appreciate you all, and particularly appreciate people like Howard, who's just put a message and said, I'm doing what I can to help with the feedback and build this into something epic. And we truly appreciate that. You know, that is a message from someone who's partnering with us, you know, and is in for the long haul and wants to be able to, in a few years' time, look back and say, I was the person who requested that feature, or I was the first person who said I wanted this, and then here it is in the system. And that's the position you're all in. So we really appreciate you sticking with us and putting your 2 cents into the system. Right, I'm going to scroll back up to the top to make sure I haven't missed anything. So we're going to go from the top down. Okay, so Anne, Ryan says, how do we create a student login to view what they see? So if we want to just be able to see what they see from their side as a user, how could we do that?
So if you wanted to create your own student login, you'd go to the users area, you'd go to contacts, you would then just create a contact, put in whatever student example information you want there, put in your email or first name, last name, etc. And then from within the profile, I've got this this little thing in the way. How do I move this? Okay, there we go. You would be able to just choose which program you are enrolled in. So you would create a contact. You would then enroll that contact manually in the program. And then on the top right, you could just go and choose a password. So you can say reset password, you can choose a password, and then you just log in with the email address that you entered, with the password that you've entered. And because you've enrolled that person in that program, they'll have access and you'll be able to see what it looks like from their perspective. Theoretically, it should look the same way from their perspective as it does to you as a staff member or an admin. The only difference will be if you have the functionality enabled to drip feed content. So where it's released in stages, then it will look different. Or if everything's locked, so if you're forcing people to complete your program in a certain order, again, you'll have to log in as a contact, but the overall program, etc., should look the same regardless.
Got it. Great. Louise says, when you're referring to staff user, is that your staff or our staff? No, Ryan was talking about your staff. So if you've created staff accounts on your system, it's for them to log in over there. All right. Not for Funneler staff to log into your system. Okay. Mark says, doesn't it make much more sense to just have one login portal for staff and for clients? I'm going to say that there's probably a reason why that's not the case and would cause difficulty, but Ryan would be better at explaining that than me.
Right. So the reason that there are two is because the one is something.funneler.app and the other one's your domain. In the past, we played around. And by the way, before you guys even went on the system, we had some other people, a small number of people use the system for like 8 months before you guys got started so that we could, get a feel for how things worked and where people were getting stuck. So you guys are the beta users, but there were some alpha users that even predate you because we wanted to make sure that, the basics were there before we took on a few hundred people. And what happened was folks would often misconfigure their domains, or they would change domains or whatever, and they would then lose access to the back end of their system. And what we decided to do, and what has proved beneficial, is just to say your admins or your staff users, they go to your funneler.app domain. They always use that. You might have 10 different domains, and they might be linked to different websites and maybe they have different subdomains. All of that stuff is for your customers, for your marketing. To make it really simple for you and your staff, you will always have one location to log in from. And we just found, after testing some different options around that generated the least amount of confusion. The only thing that was confusing was that folks would still try to log in through one of their, let's say, 20 websites. And as a staff user, it would say you're trying to log in to the customer area, not to the admin area. And so that caused some confusion, significantly less than the other option that I described. But now that we have this in place, it will just always redirect you back to your something.funneler.app domain. And so I think everyone over time will just get used to using that. But yeah, the main thing is just that your domains are variable. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they aren't, sometimes they're working, sometimes they're misconfigured. Whereas your number.funneler.app, that's something that we can control. It's always going to be available. And that's why we've done it like that.
Wonderful. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we might have to go a bit quicker. We've got quite a few in here, so we'll do a bit more rapid fire. Alison Featherby, Ryan, says that she's still having trouble getting in, and your team have tried to reset passwords and it doesn't seem to be working for her. How would you like me to direct her from this webinar to make sure we can help her? What do you think?
Well, I'll say this, the login, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That means no one can get in. If a person is not able to log in despite a password reset, and I'm not saying this is the case in your situation, because I haven't looked at your specific situation, but this is the ticket that I was talking about a moment ago. 99.9% of the time when we reset a password, but they still can't log in, 99.9% of the time it's because going to /login instead of /admin. So going to the customer login. This is a prime example of the issue that we are trying to resolve with the feature that I just described. So I'm pretty confident that that's what's happening. Maybe that's not what's happening, but I wouldn't be able to comment much further than that on the webinar. I'd have to have a look. But you can, if it's extended beyond a reasonable amount of time and you still can't get in, you can ask the support team to bring me in on it and sort it out. If they are somehow unable to, I will help and we'll get you logged in. But I'm pretty sure that it's that it's related probably to the link, the login link.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. And Alison, of course, we want to make sure that you get in and we get this resolved. Sounds like you're talking with Kyle already, so he will take good care of you and he won't stop working with you until we get you in. All right. So we will get you there. Okay. Here's a good question. Marina says, do we have an ETA, Ryan, of when the in-system email deliverability will be back up and running? So when we don't have to use SendGrid again? And I'm going to couple that with a question from Sabine, because it matches up. Sabine also says, could you clarify the email integrations situation with SendGrid? Was that going to be just a temporary workaround until the scores go back up, or is this now a permanent requirement? So maybe you could just expand on those two questions there.
Right. Well, the issue that we had during the past few weeks, where users sent some spam through the system, caused us, in case some of those of you online weren't following along, caused us some pretty significant damage in terms of the reputation of our IP addresses. And for those IP addresses to be restored to their good standing, they basically just need to be removed from blacklists. And there's nothing we can do directly other than prevent any messages like that from being sent again. There's nothing we can do directly to get those IPs off. So I expect that issue will be resolved within the next couple of months, but it's not something that we can just fix. It's not like a bug that we can go and fix the bug and then it's fixed. You know, no matter what we do, the bug on our side was that we allowed people to send emails without checking them aggressively first. There's a loophole in our system that allowed people to send emails that we should have prevented them from sending. So that's the bug, and that bug has been, as I mentioned earlier, that's been fixed. But for the ramifications of that to wear off, unfortunately, it's just a case of waiting until they take us off of the list. We have got a team of people who are appealing it, and we are putting in place all sorts of additional protections. I've already mentioned that a little bit here, but we are continuing to add things to ensure that this doesn't happen again. But there's no easy way for me to, or there's no way for me to know when we will no longer be on those lists. But I would predict that it's a couple of months.
Okay, perfect. This is a quick question regarding the engagement 0 to 10. When can we expect to see that inside of our accounts?
So everything well, not everything, a lot of what I've showed you today is in the new version, which we've now finished, and we are just testing and making sure it's stable. So we are hoping, I don't like saying days, because our policy is that we don't release until we are ready. Like the team knows that even if clients are jumping up and down and screaming because they desperately need something, we still don't release until we're ready, because if we haven't sufficiently tested something and we release, then we introduce bugs, and then people jump up and down even more. So the aim is for us to release, I don't even want to say this, but the aim is for us to release on Wednesday. That's what we're aiming for. And I think we're going to have it released on Wednesday, but we will only release if we are 100% confident that everything is totally stable, because, we can't afford to be anything less than 100% sure, because we're working with your businesses and we take that responsibility very seriously. So we're aiming for Wednesday. I hope it'll be out on Wednesday, but I can't commit to that for the reason I just described.
Yep, perfect. Makes sense. Fazana says, can the engagement status date range you've just shown, 1 to 10, can that be changed, or does it have to be 30 days? Can we do 10 days, for example, for it to go out of blue and into orange, and 10 days from orange into red, or is it set for everyone across the board?
So it's the colors are, the short answer is no. It's 10 days per unit. So the first 10 days, when somebody engages, the first 10 days, they're going to be at 10. The second 10 days, they're going to be at 20. So the engagement level, you can't change when they move to the different numbers, but you can change which people you want to message. So you could expand it and say, send it not just to the people in, 1098, you can say 10987 or 678 and not 9 and 10. So you can choose where you want to email people, but you can't choose, basically you can't choose at which point the color changes. That's not something you can choose. But your messages, you can target whichever segment of those people you'd like.
Got it. So just to clarify on top of that then, because I'm processing out loud at the same time. So for you, Farzana, you can still decide a custom date range that you want to send to, but we have just created those nice parameters for you. So you can have the flexibility you're looking for by just selecting the certain numbers within your account, the engagement numbers that you want to. So,
right, and the colors do correspond with our IP addresses. So what we have is we have 3 sets of IP addresses. We've got our premium IP addresses that we reserve for, audiences that we know are excited to go through your content. Then we've got a middle range, like a standard set of IP addresses. And then we've got our higher risk IP addresses. So if you're sending and it's in the red, it doesn't mean you're going to get bad deliverability, because we are going to be making sure that everybody is looking after our IP addresses, with the way that everyone else does. And as I've already described, we've put in place various protections to prevent people from sending spam and so on our system. But it does mean that, so you're not going to get penalized for sending emails to the bottom end of your list, but you are going to have advantage to sending more emails to the more engaged segment of your list. So basically, if it's yellow, it means, if it's red, it means you're sending emails on our more risky IPs. If it's yellow, it means that you're sending on our standard. And if it's blue, it means you're sending on our top. And that also is just for you, that everybody has that same set of parameters. So you will never have a situation where disengaged people are getting emailed on the same IP addresses as you're using to send emails to your engaged people. So it's just additional protection for you guys. Hope that makes sense.
Yep, very good. And Michelle, you've asked a question which I can answer because we're currently using it, my team. So Michelle has basically said, okay, so using the availabilities and the access levels, could we in theory create one program with loads of content and then sell it at different prices, giving people access to different levels, different amounts of it? You have a $10,000 coaching and someone logs in and sees everything, but then you sell just the course portion of that coaching program for $1,000. Could you have the same membership area, training area? The answer is yes, and we're currently doing that. So yeah, it's awesome, and it works in the same way with one-time offer funnels. Is anyone on the line? Just give me a yes. Is anyone on the line using a funnel where you sell something initially and then immediately you give them a bump and then an offer and then another one-time offer and another one? Just give me a yes in the chat if you're doing that. I'd be surprised if at least one of you isn't.
Your turn. Okay. Your turn to be disappointed.
Oh, I got one. I got my one.
Oh no.
Okay. So it works the same way with that, right? If you've got an upsell flow area, and if they bought everything in the funnel, then they get access to everything. But if they only took 1 or 2 of the offers, then they'll only get access to a slimmer version of the membership site. And as I say, that's what we're using at the moment. Okay, right, we better go. With future program coaching dates and times for a client to book on funnel. Okay, so do we have a calendar feature that we can put inside of our program areas?
We don't.
No.
The only option would be to use like Calendly, which you can embed, and that would be the only option.
Yeah, and there, I believe, I can't think of the exact names, Hannah, but I believe there are some third-party calendar tools that you could integrate with, and then just throw some HTML into your site and put it in there that way as well. Okay. So I appreciate this. Someone's interested in referring Funneler and says, could we refer clients sooner rather than later? So firstly, appreciate that. Appreciate the excitement and the keenness. We are not quite ready. So I would say, as much as I'd love to give you the opportunity to promote now, we are just going to wait that little bit longer and just not have anyone new on the platform just yet. But it will be worth the wait. We do have something very, very cool. Okay. So Catherine says, I rarely click on my emails to open them as I read them in the viewing window. Is this taken into account when my email recipients do the same in respect to engaged, disengaged, inactive? That's very interesting. I actually don't know the answer to that question because I can't picture what you mean by viewing window in your particular email client. Unless you understand, Ryan, I might.
No idea.
Okay, so I might dig in a bit further. Catherine, let me know, what email client are you using? Using Gmail, Yahoo, something else?
If you can see the text, then it's going to register that as an open. Like wherever you see it, it's going to register that as an open.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay. All right. Yeah, so let us know what email client. I'd be interested to know that. And she says, okay, makes sense. Got it. All right. Howard says, I've had a few issues with setting up automated sequences that filter correctly and filter out people correctly. I know everyone has had issues that that are important to them. Just wondering what priority level this has to sort out. So does that make sense to you, Ryan? His issue and where that is perhaps on the production line?
Well, if it's a bug, then it's the highest priority is related to actual bugs. I'm not quite sure. I guess I'd have to see the report. I'm not aware of any bugs related to the filtering feature. That's not to say that they aren't there. We've had somewhere north of 1,000 requests and so on. So I don't know every single one, but if something's a bug, it bubbles up to the top. It's the highest priority. We don't wait for features when they're bug. We don't wait for bug fixes like their features. We get bug fixes done as soon as they come in, and we include them in the next release. So I'm not aware of that particular one, but if it exists and it's logged as a bug, then it's going to get fixed ASAP.
Okay, perfect. And he just gave a thumbs up, but I sent you that message too, so you know exactly what he said there. Okay. Bear with me, still moving down the list here. Okay, so Mark says, is there any way of having a little list of all of the smaller things that are being implemented in the system that we're not aware of or don't talk about here on this call? He says, not asking for tutorials, but just perhaps a list of all the things. Is that, do we have that? Is that possible or no?
Yep. So that's something that was requested last time. And basically that's something that it's release notes. You're asking for release notes, and we are going to include release notes as soon as we get into the gold version. At the moment, because of just the volume of stuff coming in and out, there's a few things that we just don't really have time for, and that's one of them. So it is definitely going to be something that we do following the gold version. We're aiming, and again, this isn't a promise, but we're aiming to release the gold version at the beginning of September. And so as soon as we get to that point, we're going to definitely, at the very least, have release notes, and we may even be able to have a vote for feature function, so that people can upvote features that are important to them, so that we can more easily prioritize development based on demand.
Got it. Fantastic. So Joanne says, do we currently have the ability to, when creating course material, give people the ability to have instant access or drip feed it over a period of time? Or is that not something we have as a feature just yet?
We don't have the feature to do both. We have the feature to do one or the other, but not both at the same time. Yeah, well, I'd have to think about how that might work. But yeah, the answer is no, we don't have that currently.
I don't think she needs to do it at the same time. In fact, I'm not even sure how they would do it at the same time.
Well, two different contacts enrolling in the same program.
And okay.
The one contact gets it immediately, the other one gets drip fed. we don't have that. You can make both contacts get it immediately or both contacts get it in a drip fed way. But I don't think, well, not, I don't think we can't do both of those simultaneously for different contacts. But there have been a lot of feature requests related to the learning, like our e-learning features, our membership sites and so on. So we're going to be putting a big focus on that. Before we move out of beta, we're going to be putting a huge focus on the messenger. There's quite a lot of just user experience things and little features and so on that we're going to be implementing. And then the same with the learning system. And I know, Joanne, you want like video hosting, for example. That's a massively requested feature. So it's things like that. Differences in how bonus sections work, just like loads of things, exactly like there's a dashboard showing how far people have gone through programs, things like that that currently are not there. So the way I see the learning system is that it covers all the features that you like, the big features that you want, but there's a lot of there are loads and loads of little things that are just missing that we urgently need to get to. So that's going to happen very soon, and the point is that we are actively thinking about it and designing those sorts of things. So I'll include your request into the design conversations that we're having right now.
Perfect. Great. All right, Joanne, sounds like that got your answer. And then also from you, Joanne, you said, did Ryan just say that we would need to manually put someone into the system when they purchase our course? No, that was not what Ryan was showing. He was showing how to do it manually if you needed to, and to have a use case in that example. But no, if someone purchases your product, you can automatically set up access to different products. Great question here from Charlie, and this is one that I'd like to answer first, Ryan, because I'm excited about it. But then if you've got anything to add, please mention it too. Charlie says, apologies if it's been covered already. I've set up my webinar funnel, and essentially you want to track your payments all the way through, right? Make sure that, okay, someone comes into this webinar, and then they buy something, you want to track it all the way through. Can this be done in Funneler? Or does it have to be manual? You know, the payment goes through Stripe on high ticket on the phone, and then we track it back. So we implemented something that was a very important update for me, something that I wanted in the system, and Ryan built it for us. And it actually makes it even better, Charlie. It makes it just like you just won't miss any of these sales tracking, because when you have a contact that opts into your system, of course, we now have a contact record, and we're going to be tracking all the tags that they accumulate and the list that they join and products that they purchase. So what will happen is when you're on the phone with someone and you're about to take a payment for your high ticket program, you are no longer going to go directly to Stripe and take a payment through Stripe. You're going to go into the invoicing area of Funneler, and you're going to create an invoice for the amounts that you're about to take over the phone. And when you create that invoice, it's going to ask you, who is this contact for? And you're going to select the contact that you're on the phone with, and you're going to select it from your database. And now you're going to be billing that contact. So now when you take that payment over the phone, it's going to attach that payment record to that contact's contact record. So it's going to be perfect. So over the months and years to come, you're going to be able to see all the payments that all of your clients have ever purchased by simply clicking into their contact record. You'll have all that information there, which I think is freaking amazing. Anything else to add to that, Ryan?
Well, I mean, there's just a host of other benefits related to that. It's not just about tracking the payment. For example, when the person buys that product, you can have a whole bunch of rules linked to that product. So when the person buys a product, enroll them in a program, add them to a sequence, all of that stuff that in the past you might have to do manually. You capture the payment, then you create the user, then you give them access. Like all of that stuff now just becomes something that you can, that just happens automatically. And you also have a lot of customization functionality around the payment. You don't just have to collect whatever the person, whatever your product costs. You can break that down into payment plans and all of that in a unique way for every client. So there's a lot of automation that comes with that.
Yeah, perfect. Makes sense, Charlie? All right, fantastic. So Ryan, Greg says, where can I get more information on the email workaround with SendGrid?
So I posted, the best place to get it right now is to go to I posted a video, I think it's pinned in the Facebook community. So I'd say go and check that out, and that will explain everything pretty well, I think.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, that's in the Facebook group.
I'd like to just quickly show one more thing, if I may, related to performance, because this is another thing that comes up quite often. John, do you mind if I share my screen?
Yeah, please.
So this is something else that comes up quite often. Folks saying, can you improve the initial load speed of the page? And I just wanted to quickly show you, I've gone and I've set up a page here on our test system, and I've done a quick performance test using Pingdom, so tools.pingdom.com, and I've chosen just to eliminate latency. I've said UK over here, and I ran a performance test, and you'll see that our performance grade is 98 out of 100. And we're not a 98% business, so we're going to be getting that up to 100. But right now it's 98. And in terms of page load, it's 388 milliseconds. So, and we're going to be, one of the big things we're doing in the next release, we're focusing on performance. So not the next release that you're getting on Wednesday or thereabouts. The next version that we do after that, we're doing a huge update related to performance, where I think we're going to get this even faster. But when we do get tickets with people saying that the performance isn't what it should be, and when we do an analysis on their site and the load time, we'll often find that there's something embedded in the header of their site that is making their system a lot slower. Something that, not to crap on a particular system, because it's a very cool system and you guys should probably all be using it. But one example, we've had 2 or 3 clients using HighRose, and HighRose, brilliant, like nothing against HighRose, but when you stick it into your header, if you actually do a breakdown of the page load, you'll see that it's a small percentage of the time is spent loading Funneler, and the rest of the time loading that header code. So if you are experiencing slow load times, one of 2 things is probably happening. Thing number 1 is that you've got something embedded in the header of your site, like some tracking code or something like that, and that's taking a long time. Maybe you've put it in the header instead of the footer. There's potentially things like that. Or the other potential is that and we've seen some people do this, is that you have gigantic images, like billboard size images that are displaying really small, but are enormous. So those are the 2 things that may be to blame. But the system out the box, you can see over here, is pretty darn quick. So, and again, we've got a big update coming that should make this even quicker. But theoretically, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between 388 milliseconds and 200 milliseconds, which is what we're hoping to get to. So yeah, just wanted to mention that because a lot of people do ask about it, and I saw someone message me directly about that.
Yeah, no, perfect, got it. And so Cecilia says, is there a feature that allows us to request for leads to essentially double confirm they want to be on our list? So they opt in first, and then they must go and confirm that they definitely want to be on the list.
That's a high priority feature. We don't have double opt-in at the moment. In terms, like one of the big things we're focusing on now is just email deliverability, making sure that the quality. That's why we've added this engagement feature. Tons of focus right now is going to making sure that everyone who gets an email from us actually wants it, and that's obviously an amazingly good way of making that happen. So it's really high on the list, but we don't have it just yet.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we've got another 10 minutes before we need to finish up. So if I don't get to your question, forgive me. We do have quite a few left. So if we don't get to it, please submit a ticket if it's important, and we will get to it. Okay, so Lorne has said, obviously there's a lot of information on the YouTube channel, lots of videos, lots of playlists, lots of categories. What is your recommended viewing order?
Well, I think the way I recommend doing it is in the order that you feel like setting it up. The reason we've broken it down into playlists is you can pick and choose. So you're going to get started and you want to build out your website, choose the website playlist. Now you want to create your products, so that's kind of how I would. There's no specific order that you need to do it in. The only thing I'll say is that you should not move your domain until the end. I've said this now many times. I said on the last one as well, the last time we did this, some folks will move their domain across and point it at Funneler, even though Funneler isn't set up. So they've got all their funnels live, they send all their emails, everything's running, and they're like, okay, I'm going to migrate. Step number one, move my domain. All of that stuff is now broken. Like your old websites are broken, your old emails are not sending. It's just like it's a disaster. And then you're sweating, trying to like rebuild everything ASAP. It's much better to just take your time, build out the whole of Funler, get everything done, and then move the domain last. So, and the reason I'm saying that is because when people just do videos in all sorts of random orders, we do have a quick start playlist that you could look at that just takes you through the system. Some people skip that and then they just say, okay, well, step number one is let's get my domain set up, and that's a disaster. So if you don't do that, if you do your domain last, then you can go through it in whatever order you'd like.
Okay, great. And off the back of the question from Charlie, in the instance that, let's say, Charlie purchases my $10,000 coaching, but it was not done via Funler, for whatever reason, the payment was taken externally on a different system, is there a way, without, of course, double charging him, is there a way to add that to his contact record and then initiate the automations to follow?
Right. So there are two different ways you can do that. Way number one is you can still set up an invoice for them, but instead of sending them an invoice link, you could choose a cash payment or a wire transfer payment or a manual payment, something that's not going to be through Stripe or some integration. And then you can record that entire payment in one go. And so that's basically recording a payment that happened outside of the system. And so you'll still have the monetary amounts, et cetera, and all the automations will flow off the back of that. I would say that's the easiest way. There are other ways you could do it all manually or something, but the way that I just described, I think, is the easiest.
Perfect. All right, great. 2 or 3 people actually asking about a timeline for the communities feature that you shared with us last time.
That's already there.
And then someone said, how exactly was it worded? Bear with me. Will you be turning on the community feature inside of Funler? Oh, okay, I see. Sorry. Will you be turning on the community feature inside of Funler for the Funler community? So having
right. Yeah, we can pretty much turn that on whenever. The only reason I haven't switched it on yet is because I haven't had a chance to chat with John about how we would want to structure that and, what categories and so on we want there. Is it going to be like a marketing focus? Is there tech? So it's just literally, the functionality is all there. I just need to have a chat with John about how we want to set that up or how we want to structure it. So I'm sure we can get it done really quickly.
Perfect. Great. A couple of people, Mark, yourself included, a couple of people asking for feature requests in the chat. I won't draw attention to them here because, to be honest, they will just dissipate into the abyss unless they are recorded. So if you could, submit a ticket with a feature request, because a couple of them are pretty good. So then the team will actually get it on the list. All right. Alexandria says, where are we at with the form builder? So if you didn't already, I would go back and catch the recording of our state of the platform address last time, because if you didn't check that out, then you wouldn't know that we gave a very, very important update last time. And we said that since looking to build essentially a type form replacement, it's proven to be a very big task, not one that is above us, not even remotely, but it's just we have to allocate our time correctly. So we could focus on building Typeform included in Funler, but at the detriment of lots of little things perhaps going wrong in that same time frame. And so we put it out to the community last time on this call, and the resounding feedback was focus on the 100 little things as opposed to the one big thing. And I see some heads nodding, so I think it's still probably the case. So at the moment, that has taken a back seat while we focus on improving the system. And once we get to September and the gold release is out, then that's when that task will really kind of be picked back up again. All the while, I know, Ryan, you and your team, there's still thought and effort going into it behind the scenes. Don't get us wrong there, but it's just not going to be anywhere close to a production ready version until we're really, really happy with everything else. Does that make sense?
Right.
All right. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question, and then we're that might actually be it. Unless I've missed something, that might be it. Okay,
Can I
awesome.
maybe just okay, so basically what's to come over this month, the goal, as you know, at the beginning of September is to have a gold release, or at least a release candidate. So that's what we are running towards, and all the big features we're going to start implementing then. And the two biggest ones are the Calendly replacement and the Typeforms replacement. So those things are really big. We're going to be focusing on those once the gold version is out. For this coming release, we really have a few small focuses, or broad focuses. The one is performance. We want to really dig in. There's a couple of areas where we could potentially massively improve performance. And so we're going to get stuck in on that and see if we can't. We want Funneler to be the fastest funnel builder in terms of page load speed on the internet. And so I've already showed you that we are actually pretty darn quick as it stands. But we want to dig into that and go a lot further down that road. So this month, that's one of the big things we're going to be focusing on. And then the two other big areas is that I've got my UX guy, like the head of our UX team, going through all requests, all feature requests, and not just all feature requests, all bug reports, or actual bug reports, all, every description of or every question related to two areas, the messenger and the learning system. So the programs and courses, going through every single thing that anyone's ever said, plus going to all of the sites that have membership sites that have more than 4 or 5 modules and more than a certain number of lessons. So he's got all of this data, and he's going and seeing how people are actually using it, where people are getting stuck, what features people are asking for in those areas. So for the learning system and for the messenger. And he's basically doing an end-to-end audit around how we could improve the user experience, how we could improve usability, how we could add functionality. And so those are going to be, in terms of the 100 things over the next month, that's where the big focus is going to be. Performance, messenger, learning system. We're going to try and nail those things down really hard. So obviously we're going to be doing tons of other stuff as well, but those are the 3 big focuses for this month.
Yeah, amazing. Fantastic. Well, listen, guys, we're going to go ahead and finish up here. Let me say thanks so much again for being, on our beta user, client pool. It's amazing going on this journey with you. We're super, super excited for what's to come. We truly are just getting started. You are helping us to make this software the best of its kind. And we really are just getting started. So thank you so much. And we'll see you guys in the Facebook group. And if you need anything, you know where to find us. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.